What is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking about beginner setup tips for your skateboard. I'm going to share 4 things with you that you might not know about or you might not be aware of, and hopefully what these things are going to do is help you to skate better, learn tricks easier, and just generally find skateboarding more enjoyable. Okay, so the first thing that I want to point out is the tightness that you tighten up your wheels. Now this is a common mistake which I've seen quite a lot of beginners do, is over tighten their wheels. So for this one you're going to need a skate tool, and these are really cheap to pick up. You can get these on Amazon or eBay for really cheap, so definitely worth getting a hold of one of these. And basically you can use this to tighten the nuts or loosen the nuts on your wheels. Now a common thing that I see happening is beginners tighten their bolts up too much on the wheels or the nuts, and what will happen is if you over tighten these, you can see now that my wheel won't actually spin that well, and it's actually having an effect on the bearing, and it will possibly damage the bearing as well if you've got this tight. So all you need to do is take your skate tool, loosen it off a little bit, and basically what you want to do is loosen it off until you get a very slight amount of sideways movement. This is how I tighten mine up. So they're not completely all the way tightened up, there's just a little bit of movement in the wheels, and that's when you know that you've got the perfect amount of tightness. That way the nut's not going to come flying off because it's loose, and this way you're not going to get damage on your bearings and your wheels can spin freely like this. So that's the first little tip. Check all your wheels, make sure nothing's over tightened so that the wheels all run properly and true, and that'll help you land tricks and learn tricks a lot better. Okay, the second thing is a thing called wheel bite. Now wheel bite is basically when your wheel comes into contact with your deck. Now believe it or not, this happens more than you will know, because the weight that you have on the board will pivot your trucks, and I can't do it by hand, but eventually, with enough weight and with enough encouragement, these wheels are actually going to come into contact with your deck. Now the problem this will cause is that when you're trying to land tricks, or whether you're just trying to cruise around, if you've got quite loose trucks, that's going to come into contact and you're going to get wheel bite, and what's going to happen is that wheel is going to stop and skid, and then it's probably going to throw you off the board. So you have to be really careful with wheel bite. It can be potentially very dangerous. So one way that you can help reduce this, and it doesn't have to be skate wax, I just happened to find this really nice piece of skate wax at my local park. You could just use a candle from a hardware shop or from a store, really cheap, or from around the house as well. And if you look on your board, you may already see the marks. You can definitely see them on mine, that you can see where the wheels have taken some of the design of my deck off, and that is where I'm going to apply some of this wax. So I'm going to go around my board and just put a little bit of wax on all those areas that I can see where the wheel has come into contact with the deck, and hopefully what that's going to do is just reduce the friction a little bit when the wheel hits the board, and it's going to mean that you get a little less wheel bite. Now when you're learning tricks and when you're learning to do new things, even ollies, if your weight goes onto one side of the board and the wheel comes into contact with the deck, it's really easy done. You're going to get that wheel bite, so that's definitely worth doing. 100% recommend just trying to find a little bit of wax and putting them under the wheels where you can see that has been rubbing. If you haven't been able to see rubbing, just go from about here to here to make sure there's wax all under there, and that way you will definitely know that you've got all your bases covered. Okay, the next tip, and this is something that is discussed so much online, especially with beginner skateboard videos, is how tight should you have your trucks? Now, should you have them really loose, really tight? What is the best way to have them set up? And I will go ahead and tell you guys that I genuinely think that the best way to do it is to do it to your personal taste. It's your skateboard, you know what's best for your feel, so go ahead and tighten these up or loosen them off to whatever you find the most comfortable when you're skateboarding. So again, you'll need your little skate tool, and all you need to do is put that with the right size onto the kingpin, and you can loosen that off or tighten it up to your heart's content. Now what I will say is that generally speaking, for beginners, it's better to have slightly tighter trucks, because you might not have the best amount of control at first. So start off tight, and as you start to get better, you will start to get the feeling that you need them looser. So you might be trying to turn and think, well, I could do with my skateboard being able to turn a bit more there. That's when you know you're getting confident enough and you're getting good enough to be able to loosen them off a bit. So it is all about personal taste, like I say. Loosen them off or tighten them up to whatever point that feels best for you, and learn to skate like that. Some people will try and tell you there's a better way to do it. Just do whatever feels the best for you at that time, and you can always adjust them at a later date. And if you do want to adjust them, I suggest either going a quarter turn or a half a turn at a time. That way you know how much you've loosened them. So if you loosen them off a half a turn, if you found that too loose, you know you can go back and tighten that up half again, and it will be back to how it was before. So that's a really good tip, I think. Just do whatever feels best for you, and pretty much just don't listen to what other people try and tell you. It's all about you and your skateboarding. Okay, the last tip, and this is probably one of the most important things when it comes to starting skating. A skateboard actually has a nose and a tail, and they are different shapes. Now this is something that took me quite a while to figure out when I was a beginner. Someone actually ended up telling me about this. I didn't know. I thought skateboards were completely symmetrical from top to bottom, and I thought the nose and the tail were exactly the same. So therefore, I thought it was fine. No matter which way you rode the board, it would be exactly the same, but it's definitely not the case. There is a nose and there is a tail, and they're different sizes for a reason. A nose is going to be bigger because it needs to get more friction when your front foot is coming up to flick tricks or to be able to do ollies or anything like that. So your nose will be slightly bigger so you can get more friction. The tail will be nice and small and snappy so that you can pop it easier, and it'll be a bit lighter as well. So there definitely is a front and a back to your skateboard. It's pretty easy to figure out the difference. Just have a good solid look at the board. If you really want to figure it out, you could get a tape measure if you can't see it by eye. Another way to figure it out is look at the graphic on the bottom of your board. Now on mine, I've got crooked written down here. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but that's facing so that you can read it this way. So to me, that means that the nose is this way, and that's the way that I should ride the board. So for me, this is the nose and this is the tail. And what you can do is once you've figured it out, you can put a little mark on your grip tape. You could just use like a coin or a nail to put an X at the top of your board so you know that that's the nose, and then you can make sure you always ride it that way. You can see here I've set it up so my grip tape is not completely covering the whole board, so that I know every time that this is the nose and this is the tail without even having to think about it. When you've got a complete one piece of grip tape, it can be difficult sometimes to see the difference, so it's nice to have a little marker to indicate which way around it goes. I think that's a super important tip, and it's going to make a massive difference to you learning tricks and figuring out how to skate, because you need to have your board running the right way. That's it for this one, guys. Those are 4 tips. I hope they help you on your way to learning skateboarding and skateboarding tricks. Please subscribe if you like this kind of content, as I drop beginner skateboard tips all the time, as well as skateboarding and other hacks. And also hit that like button as well if you like this video. I would really appreciate it. Leave a comment below which was your favorite out of the 4 and which one will you be using. I'd love to know. And until next time, keep skating, and I'll be back with more tips soon. Peace.